Ready?
Call the meeting to order. I'd like to have everybody stand and join me in the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, Mr. Chair.
Good morning. Look for an approval of the county board minutes.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Discussion on those minutes. Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Tabitha, do we have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
Not at this time, Mr. Chair.
I would look for a motion.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion on the agenda? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Our next item of business is going to be Social Services, Child Support Awareness Month, a proclamation. Brad, you've got the floor.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Unfortunately, Jackie is not able to make it today, and so I will be reading the proclamation, and then we can take a picture if you so choose, and then we'll go into a service that we have for child support parents. So August is Child Support Month, so we would like to recognize it with a proclamation. Whereas county child support officers and support enforcement aides are dedicated to providing outstanding services to the people of Minnesota through their work with the people we serve and use of the statewide child support program. And whereas county child support workers are responsible for establishing paternity and orders for child support, they work with payers to assure accurate orders and timely payments when needed, take enforcement actions to assure collection of child support dollars owed to children of Morrison County and Greater Minnesota, totaling in excess of $4 million each year. And whereas county child support workers must meet very high standards of job performance, and the duties require that they be well versed in a number of areas, including the legal system, to effectively provide those services to the public. And whereas county child support workers play a large role in the continued success of welfare reform by helping to move Minnesota's low-income families towards self-sufficiency by assuring regular and timely payments of support, reducing the need for reliance on costly financial assistance programs. And whereas it is important that all citizens recognize the important services that county child support officers and support enforcement aides provide to the residents of Morrison County, therefore the members of the Morrison County Board of Commissioners hereby proclaim August 2018 as Child Support Awareness Month in Morrison County. And so, yes, child support is a very critical service we provide within the self-sufficiency programs. Jackie has come previously to do some child support reports, and this year I didn't have her do that. We're actually going to just highlight a program that our county uses in child support. So,
Before we get started, Brad, I'd look for a motion on the proclamation.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? None at this time. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Thank you, Brad. Go ahead.
And then if you'd like to take a picture, maybe we'll do this report from Lynn with the Father's Resource Program first, and then we can
Please.
take a picture with the proclamation. So we have a guest here that provides services to our child support families, both custodial and non-custodial parents. It is out of Wadena and Otter Tail counties. It's called Father's Resource Program, and they are a part of Mojave, Ottawa Community Action Program. And this particular program, we were actually talking about it before the board meeting, has been around for quite some time, since the late 90s. It did move from their organization to another and now back. So I thought, given the fact that this is Child Support Awareness Month, it would be good to highlight one of those programs that serve child support parents. So I will turn it over to Lynn and have her introduce herself. And she did provide some information to you. I gave you a little packet that she will talk about, and there's also a handout in your board packet.
Good morning, everyone. Again, my name is Lynn Nesland, and I work for Mojave Ottawa as the Father's Resource Counselor. I service 8 counties, including Morrison. I think we've been working together now for about 5 years. With the support of the county, we're able to work with parents who are referred to us from the court system, from the child support office, sometimes child protective services, sometimes other outside agencies that are knowing that families are struggling because of maybe a child support order that is no longer favorable for the person paying, so then therefore the person receiving isn't getting consistent payments. If you're supposed to pay $1,000 but you don't make enough in your full-time job now because of a change to pay $1,000, it doesn't help either family, either the person paying or the person receiving, because they can't budget on either side because it's more of a percentage deduction. So we work with those families to make both families stable, to get a favorable payment for him to pay and for her to receive. In the packet, in your packet, that shows the last 7 months of services to individuals, and then the information you received today is about 4 satisfaction surveys, a couple related to child support, and then a couple related to custody and parenting time, which is also something we do. If parents are struggling with establishing a solid parenting time schedule, we can help them with paperwork to get before the judge to help maybe mediate, to then set up who's going to have the children on which days, when the pickups are, where should we pick up, and how to coordinate that best so the kids can have time with both parents. We work. I come here to Morrison County a couple times a month. I've gotten calls from the jail administration to come into the jail and meet with folks who are maybe there because of non-payment of child support, so that they can get that paperwork rolling while they're here in the Morrison County Jail. So definitely work with a lot of different referral agencies, trying to make it so the individual has an appropriate payment for child support. Any questions or concerns?
Maybe just one other comment. As part of the challenge with child support and our child support staff is that we cannot provide legal advice or assist in court orders for those child support parents who want to change custody, change the amount they're owed or the amount they're receiving. Our staff cannot help them, nor can we provide legal services to them. And so by having this service available for our parents, it really gives them another option, because navigating the court system can be very challenging. And so it's nice to have this service available, and it's nice to be able to have child support staff have a resource for frustrated parents, non-custodial and custodial parents trying to navigate that system. And this, as she said, 8 counties. I think it actually might be a few more than 8 counties, but
That's the name.
It's actually a consortium of counties that are partnering to pay for this service across central and west central Minnesota. So it's been very beneficial, and I know our staff we are generally one of the higher users of this service for our families, and so it's been good to have this available.
Yes.
Brad, as you're more than well aware, through your agency, coming forth to the board, when talking of child support, you've come here at least yearly, and there's a presentation that's made. Today's presentation is just a little bit different, and when I say that, I'm saying the Community Action Partnership of, how do you say it, Mojave,
Atwa.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Think of Hubbard County.
Have we been involved in that for a long time, too?
For 5 years.
Just
Yep.
because, I mean, it's not as if I know everything that you do, because I'm not supposed to. I don't need to. But this has been something we've been involved with.
Yep. So
Excellent.
Otter Tail County is the host county for this particular service.
Okay.
And so a few years back, trying to expand that service, and I think they were interested in growing the service, Otter Tail reached out to the counties in their region as well as us in Region 5 to see if we would be interested in partnering. So we pay a very minimal amount and for this service, and it was great that Otter Tail and Mojave, Ottawa decided to grow this service to support individuals in the child support system. So yeah, it's been about 5 years.
Excellent, excellent. Board, any concerns, questions?
Mr. Chair, I just want to thank you for being here, because I do get a lot of fathers that call, and they seem like once they have to pay their money that they've got to pay about 80% of what they make, and I don't know if that's true, but I can see where you need to have some balance so that both families can exist. Mm-hmm. And it just seems like sometimes the fathers seem like they get the short end of the stick, and so I'm glad there's somebody here to support that. Yeah. So thank you.
And it's a tough job. In the past, we've heard from your agency, Brad, on what you collect, and it doesn't matter what the figures are, but the figures are astronomical as far as I'm concerned. I mean, it's a lot of money that's collected through this entire program of child support. So thank you all very kindly for everything that you do. I appreciate it a lot.
And families going through these custody issues and child support challenges, I mean, it's no fun whether you get along or you don't get along. And so really this is one way to kind of help navigate for them. And it's very difficult, very challenging.
Thank you for coming today, Lynn.
Thank you for
appreciate
having
it a
me.
lot.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, maybe we could take a picture for the proclamation and then maybe include Lynn, and we can put a little bit about this program specifically, I think would be nice.
Absolutely. That would be great.
Fantastic idea.
You can stay out.
Oh, there you go. Wow, nicely done.
There we go. They're experienced.
Not that I'm surprised. Waiting for me. I honestly don't think it could be a better.
I don't think. Well, we sit down.
Perfect. Oh, there we go. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go so I can get back to Adina.
Safe travels.
Yes. Thank you.
And if you get a call from a guy named Tyler, I was surprised at my place. Let's see, our next item of business is once again going to bring Brad to the front and center with a social services report.
Nope.
Is that not?
Council on Aging. The child support report was.
Do we switch them around or something, or what?
Oh, she just gave the social services.
Oh, excuse me, sorry about that.
Father's Resource was.
I thought that was child support.
Well, part of, so.
All right.
Moving right along.
Moving right along. Council on Aging. How about Council on Aging?
You guys moved on me.
Hi, Lori.
Just in a temporary position, that's all.
Well, thank you for having me here again this year.
And thank you for coming.
Look forward to the opportunity. It gives me an opportunity to share what the Council on Aging and our provider partners are doing specifically here in Morrison County for older adults. As you know, the Council on Aging, we serve as the area agency on aging for the 14-county area. And one of our primary responsibilities is that we work to administer out the Federal Older Americans Act dollars to providers throughout our region who provide services specifically to help older adults remain in their own homes, as well as supporting the family members. Currently, 17% of Morrison County is over age 65, and that is going to continue to grow as the aging of our population continues. 2030 is a year that is kind of a benchmark year. In 12 years, that will be 2030, and that's when the first of the baby boomers will turn 85, and the youngest of the baby boomers will turn 65. And at age 85, that's typically when we start seeing individuals having to reach out and use formal services. Family very much still is very involved in supporting their older family members, but it is when we start to see a real growth in people using the formal network. And so it's important that there are the services in place for them to be able to obtain. And so one of the things that the Older Americans Act funding does is it works with those individuals. The primary age of the individuals being served through the programs is 81. That's the average age. And the Older Americans Act programs, they're not means tested, so it does not do an income or asset testing. It's meant to target low-income individuals. Ideally, our projects are trying to work with people just above the medical assistance income level and hopefully get the right services in place so that they can avoid going on to medical assistance. But we target low-income older adults and individuals that are frail. So in your packet, what you see there is numbers specifically from last year. Those are last year's numbers, so those are actual individuals and number of units that were served specifically for Morrison County. In 2018 here, we awarded out just over $165,000 of Older Americans Act funding that will go for services specifically in Morrison County. The largest of that is nutrition, home-delivered meals and congregate dining, but we do have other contracts in place for services in Morrison as well. Of our 14-county area, Morrison represents 5% of our 60-plus population, and about 6% of the funding in 2018 is going for services in Morrison County. So when you look at those numbers for last year, I wanted to give you last year's numbers because those are actuals. Rides, 72 individuals were served with just over 1,352 rides. Those are primarily rides to doctor's appointments and grocery shopping or coming into the county and applying for services. Those are all done by volunteers, and it's that assisted transportation. So these are typically individuals who, using the bus service, would not be accommodating to them. They need that extra assistance to actually get into the doctor's appointment, help them get to their appointment, get out, get back into their home, or help them once they're in the grocery store. So it's that assisted transportation. Chores, homemaker, and support planning. You'll see those numbers are very small. We have a contract right now with Horizon Health, and they've been going through some management changes. We did meet with their they have reorganized, and they're using a management service for the next 3 years to help them kind of restructure their organization. And we had we did meet with them last month, and we're hoping to see some pretty significant turnarounds in terms of the number of individuals that they're serving. When we award out dollars, we do it on a contract basis, so they're not grants. So for example, if we award out to Lutheran Social Services for home-delivered meals, we agree to a number of meals we'll be purchasing, and we agree to a unit rate that we'll pay per meal. So these projects are only reimbursed for actual service delivered. As I said, the nutrition services that's our largest funding category. And we have a contract with Lutheran Social Services for both congregate and home-delivered meals. Over 450 individuals from Morrison County last year were served with either congregate or home-delivered meals, just over 15,000 meals. And for the home-delivered meals, well, Lutheran Social Services also does home-delivered meals for the waivered clients. Those numbers are not reflected in here. This is only the meals are being paid through the Older Americans Act funding. So there's additional services that are happening in addition to this from most of these agencies. Senior linkage, we had 2,374 telephone assistance sessions and 708 in-person assistance sessions for individuals from Morrison County. A lot of those in-person sessions happen at the clinic. We have outreach site at the clinic, and that has worked extremely well. The clinic staff there takes the appointments, and the physicians and nursing staff are very well aware of the service, and so we get a lot of referrals from the physicians themselves. We just had a client that our senior linkage advocate was working with from Morrison County that was a referral from the physician, and she met with her at the outreach site here in Little Falls, and she's 65 years old from Pierce. She's on Medicare with disability, and she's still working because she's trying to make ends meet. And the physician referred her because he was putting her on some new medications, and she was sharing with him that she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to afford to be able to purchase those medications on the monthly basis that was needed. And so Sarah met with her and got her onto the medical assistance employed people with disabilities program, and then with that she was automatically enrolled then in the extra help program through Medicare, and that's saving her over $6,000 a year, and so it allows her to cover some of her medications and co-payments for her premiums, and then now she has that money to cover other living expenses that she has. And then the last service that we fund out here is legal assistance. We have a contract with the St. Cloud Senior Law Project, and they cover our 14-county area. Last year, they assisted 54 individuals with over 266 hours of legal counsel in Morrison here. So that kind of gives you a highlight of some of the services specifically provided here in Morrison.
Chair, if I may interrupt.
Yep.
Are the numbers trending higher, lower, or is it kind of staying the same over the past 2, 3, 4 years?
Specifically for Morrison County, we have seen a reduction in the level of service that's going out for the chore, homemaker, caregiver supports. We currently have one contract right now for those services, and as I said, they have gone through a management restructuring. We're hoping to see those numbers increase because they haven't been fully utilizing the funds available. That's not because there isn't the need for homemaker and respite and chore. And so we're hoping to see that increase. How we operate our funding is we go out for competitive bid every 3 years, and in between years, it's renewal. So now in 2020, we'll be back in open bid. And so one of the things that our development staff will be doing over the next several months is holding some community conversations with community members and with providers in Morrison County, and looking to see if we can attract another provider that we can contract with in addition with some of our current providers, so that we can increase those services. Because as I said, the dollars that we have available aren't always being fully utilized each year, and that is a concern because the need's there.
Where does that money go then?
So what happens with the dollars is with the federal funding, those dollars stay at our level, so we can award those out the subsequent year. They don't stay at the project level, so that goes into our pool for what we have to award out the next year with any service within our 14-county area under that category of funding.
So we don't necessarily lose the money.
We don't.
It stays.
We don't lose the money. It stays within our 14-county area to
Very good.
use for that category of funding. However, we fully intend to have the dollars that are available to us to be expended each year and meet the needs. I mean, that's
Without a doubt.
That's the ultimate goal. So that is something that we're working on, trying to increase the service level, and one of the ways will be to attract some new providers for the services. And then that becomes typically, if we attract a new provider for Older Americans Act, one of the things we work with them on is helping them get through the process, become 245D licensed, so then they can be a provider for waivered services as well, for alternative care and elderly waiver, which then in turn is another resource for individuals that are on medical assistance and the waiver to work through as well. So this is kind of a snapshot of what the match that Morrison County provides to us on an annual basis, and we very much appreciate that. On an annual basis, we request $2,534 from Morrison County, and that's done on a prorated basis. So with the Older Americans Act, we have to have match, and so we do go to the counties each year and request that match, and it's done based on the 60-plus population for each county, and that rate really doesn't change, primarily because our funding level relatively remains flat. I mean, we do see, some years we'll see a little bit increase, other years we'll see a little bit decrease, but it's very minimal. So these numbers really stay the same. It'll change again in 2020 with the census, but really that's those numbers relatively stay the same. So we very much appreciate the dollars that the county does provide us, as well as Commissioner Wilson serving on our board of directors as well, because it does allow us the opportunity to fully leverage the federal funding that's available to us and help support those activities.
Excellent. Gentlemen, questions, concerns, thoughts?
We all age.
Yeah.
We all age, some of us faster than others.
One thing I would put out there is in the next couple months, older adults throughout the state probably will be really bombarded with information about Medicare cost plans. Those are going away for most counties in our region. It does include Morrison County. There's 400,000 seniors in Minnesota where that will be impacted by this, about 65,000 in our region. And that's one of the things that our staff and volunteers will provide assistance with, is acting as that neutral party to help people evaluate the different plans that are out there and then help navigate them through making those plan selections during open enrollment. But
Sure.
it will be a very, very confusing time for many seniors, and for most individuals, it will also, that are on cost plans, it will likely mean that their monthly premiums will go up because cost plans have typically been less expensive for consumers. And so, we will be working with them to try to find the most cost-effective plan that meets their needs. So with that, I have some tear-up pads that we actually use at the clinic, but for the doctors. But it's just a tear-up pad that you can keep with you, and if you have individuals you come across that could benefit from linkage, you can just tear one out and give them to them.
Sure. And Lori, again, there is no cost for this, right?
No, so with the Older Americans Act funding programs, those are all done on a donation basis. So individuals are made aware of what the full cost of the service is to them. So like if they go to a congregate dining site here at the senior center, for example, they'll be made aware that the full cost of that meal is $7.50. The recommended contribution is $4.50. Whether they contribute or not, they're provided the service.
Okay. But if someone wants to call senior linkage line to...
There's no cost for that, and we don't ask for donations either, because that is funded with some Older Americans Act funding, but it's state dollars and funding from Center for Medicare Services. And so that is all done that's absolutely a free service.
And someone that will have questions, concerns on Medicare, whatever it might be,
They can call that number.
and someone will talk to them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you.
Can I get your phone number?
Oh, yes.
Here, why don't you just
I'll
write
just
it
write it
down?
down. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you very kindly, Lori. Have a good day.
Yes, you as well.
Great River Regional Library. Good morning.
Good morning,
Morning.
everyone. Thank you for having us here today. I'm Executive Director Karen Punsack from Great River Regional Library. I have with me Accounting and Distribution Supervisor Erin Murphy. We're here to report back to the county on our budget setting endeavors over the past couple months. Commissioner Winter has been an active member of our Finance Committee and is our board chair this year, so he's very familiar with all of the things we've been working on, but I wanted to bring the whole county up to speed on some of the things we've been going on. So just a reminder, Great River Regional Library is a 6-county regional library system. We have 32 locations, not counting the Sartell locker, 32 and a half, I guess, if you count the locker system. We have over 110,000 borrowers over that 6-county region. And if you go to the next slide, you can see Morrison County's population is about 34,000 people. 8,000 people have an active library card, which means they've used the card at least once in the last 3 years to check out materials. There are a lot of services you can use in the library without a library card, but that's the one measure we can track. You can see in the 5 libraries in Morrison County, we had 9,000 computer uses, 8,000 wireless connections. In addition to people checking things out, they just come in to visit. Some places like Little Falls have a meeting room, so those meeting room spaces are used pretty heavily. We also do programming in all of our libraries and in our library communities. And this is an overall picture of next year's budget. We do set our budget on a calendar year basis. And per the joint powers agreement between the 6 counties, we have to have the budget set by August 1st. So we have accomplished that again this year. And Aaron will tell you a little bit more about the details.
Good morning.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you. So for 2019's budget, it's an overall 1.28% overall budget increase, but for Morrison County and 4 of the other counties, it was a decrease. But for Morrison County, it was a 0.97% decrease over 2018. The contributing factors to that decrease were the Great River Board voted to increase the revenue line for ROBSS, which is Regional Library Basic System Support. We had originally budgeted, $1.5 million, and Great Rivers Board decided to increase that to 1.6 based on what we received for fiscal year 2018. Another contributing factor is back in 2012, I know I'm going back in history here a little bit, but 2012, Great River had 17 individual CDs that we were invested in at that time, and interest rates were around the 0.5% mark. Rolling forward to 2018, Great River has grown its CD investments to 24, and interest rates are hovering around the 2.5% mark. So each year we've been increasing the interest revenue, which helps to offset the signatory contributions each year. So we should be, if rates stay pretty steady where they're at, we should see more interest revenue coming in each year. This year we're on target to bring in right around $100,000. So overall, county signatories, as you can see from the next slide here, this here is an aggregate of all counties, showing that Morrison County is around the $502,000 contribution for the year, which is a little bit lower than 2018. All counties except for one saw a decrease for 2019, which is since I've been the accounting head, I have not seen that since, and that was about 5 years ago. So this is unprecedented in my...
It's an interesting math problem.
It's an interesting math problem, yeah, it's unprecedented.
Easier one to deal with as staff.
Yeah. And this next slide is a drill down just on Morrison County. And you can see back in 2012, you had a nice dip, and then it gradually increased. And then from 2018 to 2019 is that 0.97% decrease. We're hoping it can continue somewhere along those lines.
So just a reminder, the formula within the Joint Powers Agreement sets the county shares between the 6 counties based on the number of borrower numbers, the population of each library, and then the net tax capacity of each county. So part of the fluctuation this year for Morrison County was also that big swing in net tax capacity. With Wright County in the mix, their tax capacity is growing exponentially compared to everyone else's. So we anticipate that trend will continue. Morrison County has 5 libraries, and so they actually you have a large number of borrowers in comparison to some of the other counties. For example, Benton County has fully physically located there. The majority of their users use St. Cloud, and Sherburne County only has 3 libraries, even though they pay a pretty substantial portion. So you can see the dollars provided per capita within the counties shakes out a little differently because of the way that formula works. You can see overall for 2019, Great River's anticipating $19.67 per capita in revenue total, including state funding, fines and fees, interest. And on the side there, you can see total revenue, and this is the most recent data available from national reporting. So statewide in Minnesota, it costs about $39.71 to provide public library service across the state. Great River, even including the city maintenance contributions, which are not included part of our regular revenue budget, we run about $20.17. So we're running about half of what it costs to run a library in the state of Minnesota. And if you compare south of the region, Hennepin County, which our services are often compared with Hennepin County because, Rockford's right across the border, Delano is right across the border. They're running closer to $60 per capita. They have a $76 million budget in Hennepin County with 41 libraries. We run 32 libraries on $9 million. So you can be proud of the fact that we are a very lean regional library system with a high level of services. We're also host to the 3rd largest library collection in the state of Minnesota. And that's because we share our resources across all 6 counties. We don't worry about who owns which book, and it's a very effective way of running a library system. And places like Swanville and Royalton, which are hosted in Morrison County, are places that are heavily used by Todd County and Benton County residents because they're right on those border communities. So we want to thank you for being part of that service. We're very proud to be able to deliver that. On the next slide, you can kind of see one of our new initiatives for this year. We wanted to share this because fundraising has been a pretty hot topic over the last couple of years at Great River. One of our initiatives this year was locally grown. We revamped our High Five campaign in March to make it a more local focus, and it allowed us to double the revenue we received through fundraising through just that campaign. One of the other things that has happened over the last couple of years, we've done a lot of reorganizing within Great River. So last year we redid distribution, and Aaron took on additional duties in addition to accounting. That has allowed us to run a little bit leaner. We overhauled our public relations department this year, and our fundraising will be on a new path. So we hope to grow our fundraising receipts by double within the next 3 to 5 years, and this is one step in that direction. We just hired a new coordinator for our communications department. And so we will continue to see some cost savings within the library system because of all of the reorganizing we're doing. The last thing I'd like to highlight is because of those cost savings, because of a great fluctuation in our state dollars in the last couple of years, we have been running a surplus over the last couple of years. So the Great River Board at the last meeting has allocated some of those surplus dollars to enhance some of the services that we offer over the next couple of years. The most fast approaching effort will be our fines forgiveness period in September. We will be running fines forgiveness from September 15th through September 22nd. So anyone who comes into the library and has fines on their cards, we're going to waive those fines. And it will impact our revenue. We're not really sure how much, but we think because we're running such a high surplus, it's time to enhance the way we're offering services to our patrons. And we hope to repeat that again next year if it's a successful effort. Some of the other improvements we'll be doing is some security upgrades in some of our libraries. We're also hoping to launch a streaming service in the next 12 months, and within the next 24 months offer wireless printing in all of our locations. But it'll take us a while to get some of these efforts off the ground, but I want to thank the support of the county board and Commissioner Wincher in particular for his time in helping us develop the path that we're on. And if you have any questions about this and next year's budget, please let me know.
Gentlemen?
Mr. Chair, I just want to acknowledge the two present here, Aaron and Karen. They do a great job keeping the board informed, not just financially, but all the other issues that come up during the year. Again, this new person that we hired to take care of all the fundraising and stuff, I think that's going to be a great asset to the library, because again, that's always a challenge, is that. But again, I want to thank you two for the job you guys do, for the board of Great River.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I would be remiss without saying something about the fact people still read. They actually do open up books. Your numbers speak to that quite highly. Libraries are still something that I truly believe we need to have. We can have all these electronic devices that we want to, and at the same time, while we have these electronic devices, if that is what we choose to read off of, we can still come to the library and utilize them through the internet and such like that. So thank you all very much. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, yeah, thank you very much for what you do. All of our small communities rely on you real heavily, so thank you.
And then if I would like to also remind people that when you have a library, don't bend the corners on the library page to show where they
You need a bookmark.
We have bookmarks for free, so
Yeah, there you go. All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next item on our agenda this morning is going to be the sheriff's report, and I see the sheriff is in the building. Good morning, Sheriff Larson. You're welcome.
Morning, members of the board.
Morning, Sheriff.
First, like to start out this morning by recognizing Randy Wincher, our commissioner. I think it's his birthday today, so I don't know if we should sing, if that's appropriate at a meeting or not, but no, happy birthday.
You can sing if you'd like to start
I think it's time for a
off.
solo, if you could just...
So we got the July monthly report in front of us, and as always, we start off with a few photos, just kind of what's going on. Just a few highlights for the month of July. So we're still active with our Ellis training. That's the alert, lockdown, inform, counter, and evacuate. So this photo here was at the historic courthouse, and we did some training with Hands of Hope, Kinship, and our guardian ad litems. We're still continuing to get requests for that, so it's a good deal. It's regarding active shooters and how to respond, and just educating and then actually doing some hands-on stuff where the trainees actually go through and then do a question and answer afterwards. So good positive feedback from that. The second photo down in the middle is Coffee and a Cop. We're still active doing that. Last month, in July, we did Coffee with a Cop in the city of Motley at the Countryside Cafe. And again, we're talking about opioid use, we're talking about prescription drug abuse and prevention measures that can be taken. And we usually have fairly small crowds, but I guess they're active crowds asking and a lot of questions and being engaged. And the bottom photo is our 45th annual REC program. REC stands for Residents Encountering Christ. This was a 2-day retreat that we take with our inmates in our jail, and it's designed for jail residents to learn about Christ. And in that photo is all the volunteers. I shouldn't say all of them. I would say, I'm not sure if a couple missed or not, but I think there's like 28 to 30 volunteers that showed up for this event, all on their own time. So great event. Actually got some kites, which are just slips that the inmates can write back and forth, and I received a couple from some of the inmates just saying thanks for this program. You know, it's definitely changed the way my thinking and the way I want to move forward, so it's good feedback too. Other than that, moving on, you can see we had 968 complaints for last month. The non-criminal complaints were 826, criminal complaints 142. Our drug investigations, we had 5 substance agency assists, and we had 1 possession marijuana. Let me grab an email here. And it's a little different now because I think The board's already been updated and advised by our drug task force officer that they have their own tracking system. So now I'm actually taking statistics that I get on their end and kind of merging it with what we see in the field here. So we had 4 search warrant assists as well that aren't documented on this. We had 1 controlled by. We're still active in our education and presentations. We're at St. Gabriel's Hospital. There were some governor candidates. We did a presentation for them in the morning in July, and then we had one for the congressional candidates for the Minnesota U.S. offices. We also did another one. Oh, I'm sorry. So we also have the federal case that's going on in July. So there was still some time involved with that, with our task force members assisting in St. Cloud. And then the Terry Brisk case, homicide case, we actually had our investigator work on that because meeting with the FBI, there's been some follow-up that we're doing on that. So we're exhausting all our resources and continuing to work on that case as well, which we should be. Other than that, our training, you'll see that we had 10 officers with handgun qual, 10 officers attended rifle qual. And that number 10 is we have 10 individuals on our SWAT team, so those are all SWAT team members. We had 21 officers for backup qual and 21 officers for shotgun qual. Those are our department personnel. Basically, if we have a backup weapon, that means if you're carrying off duty, we need to be qualified in that weapon and be proficient as well. So that's what the backup weapon means. And we already talked about some of the presentations, and then I gave one too, an opioid presentation, St. Gabe's Hospital for the Minnesota Hospital Association. Our kernel complaints, I'll just highlight a few. You'll see the 20% in the bottom right quadrant. That's going to be disturbing the peace. We had 28 calls for service. 4 disorderly conducts, 9 public nuisance, and 15 harassing phone calls. So that's where those statistics come from. The 25%, which is going to be the left bottom quadrant, orange in color, we had 35 thefts. And if you remember, July was a busy month, especially with cemeteries being hit. We had anything from what got reported to us was brass and copper and bronze, all these vases by the tombstones. So a lot of those numbers are a reflection of last month's thefts in those cemeteries. Moving on to our citations, and it looks like I have numbers and I don't have percentages. But anyway, it looks like we had 18 citations for speed. We had 115 verbal warnings, which obviously that's going to put us over 50%. We're looking at probably 58% of our activity is going to be the verbal warnings, and then we had 29 written warnings. So those are the highlights for the traffic complaints or citations. And then there's a 2-year comparison. Looks like we had a few more complaints in 17 than 18, but other than that, everything's somewhat close, except for our civil process, which has gone down a little bit, but that usually fluctuates.
Sheriff, I'd have to say July of 17, July of 18 does have a little bit of a slowdown for a change. Now, I'm not going to suggest for a second that 18 is not going to change, that August won't change that again,
Yeah.
But we don't often see where something's a little bit lower, and we're lower in quite a bit of different categories here. Mm-hmm. So that's very good.
For once, it's nice to have a little break, I guess.
It is, yes.
And then our total inmates, our average for the month is 42 for Morrison County. You can see we're still getting some inmates from Itasca County, which is a good thing. That number's usually fluctuating back and forth, but we averaged 13 for the month of July. Again, Itasca County, they're going to be building a jail. I don't really know when the conclusion is, but until that date, we're going to still continue to seek out boarding some of their inmates. Our total inmate population, if you include our own Morrison County and boarding inmates from other counties, we average 59. Then on the last page, I'll just highlight that our out-of-county inmates, the number of inmates held for other counties on the bottom was 37. and our revenue collected for boarding out-of-county inmates was $28,380. So, again, I want to credit our jail staff, everybody from the top to the bottom, our line staff for doing a great job, because it's more work for them when we board these inmates in, but there's been no complaints as far as that goes, and they're taking care of business. So that's all I have, unless there's any
quick question for you.
Yep.
STS, just a quick comment if you can.
Yep.
Is STS still doing everything that it's set out to do?
It is, but I can tell you that our numbers sometimes drop. The number of personnel that can be designated to the STS crew, years past, it's never been an issue. Maybe we had 10 people, maybe a little bit more, sometimes less. Now it seems like our numbers will fluctuate, and there's times where we only have a couple people that are available to go out. A lot of that is through the courts, because if you're going to be on sentence to serve, it has to be granted through the courts. They have to be sentenced to minimal risk. They have to be cleared by our nurse, and they can't have any prior escapes from custody. But then some of it is like child support. We're working with the county attorney's office now to see if there's any of these people that meet that criteria that we can actually take just to assist us. But it does fluctuate week from week.
Very good. Thank you.
Any other questions? And then I'm here for something else.
There is a resolution that was handed out, it goes
Okay.
with the RBA that's in the packet, regarding the ability to authorize the sheriff to be able to apply for the grant towards zero death.
So,
And it allows him to be a signatory on it.
So I had a brief discussion with Doug Rex that he handles our TZD towards zero deaths. And what he told me is we're actually awarded this money, but we have to go through this process and get the signatures. So we need the resolution, like Ms. Gruber already said, for authorizing execution of agreement, which is towards zero death. We don't know yet. We're going to find out at the end of the month how much funding we're actually going to get awarded, but we have been advised that we are going to be awarded this money. I can tell you last year we got approximately $17,000, and this includes all law enforcement agencies within Morrison County, and this is when we do different saturations in different locations throughout Morrison County. So you might see a Royalton Police Squad, and you might see a Motley Police Squad with the Morrison County Deputy Squad maybe working Highway 10 or Highway 371. We're looking for the high volumes of traffic and just working on the education and enforcement. And of course, that enforcement's for speed, DWI, seat belts, distracted driving, and the list goes on.
And this enforcement, the education portion of it, also goes further than on the street. I think that some of this money is earmarked to radio ads, schools.
Correct.
And such like that. It's not just squad cars on the street, if you want to say. Okay. I would look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Gentlemen, any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thanks, Sheriff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chair, if I
Yes.
may, before the sheriff leaves the table, I wanted to mention to the rest of the board here I had the pleasure last night to join the sheriff in Swanville, and he had a demonstration with Deputy Heffron on the drones that are now a tool and a part of the county program here too. And I just wanted to share with you how impressed I was with his professionalism and also of Deputy Heffron and the tremendous response they got from the people who made that drone purchase possible. And so I'm just, I was very happy, very humbled to be a part of that, but I was also very impressed with the turnout from people in Swanville and certainly for the professionalism by our sheriff and his staff. So thank you.
I appreciate that.
Very good, thank you.
If I can just add on that, I think what we need to do is get a show just for our county board, a little presentation, because if you're like me and you know a little bit about drones, that's great. But if you actually see what we have in stock at our fingertips, it is amazing. It's crazy. And just the different things it can do. Deputy Heffron does a phenomenal job. He's a licensed pilot. And when he runs these drones, it's amazing how he can just buzz this thing around and do what he can do. But there's some great things, that the infrared camera, and then there's a spotlight camera. These things are interchangeable. And the spotlight camera, and I'm learning as I go too, and I'm seeing this presentation. We didn't do it because it wasn't dark enough, but it sounds like there's spotlight cameras that we're able to put on this drone just to light up an area, and we're talking a bigger area too. So it'd be great just for everyone to see it, and maybe it's something we can line up here in the near future.
Sure.
Mr. Chair, I'd be remiss too if I didn't mention that this was made possible in memory of the late Commissioner Johnson, who my predecessor, and our thanks goes out to the Lions in Swanville and the other organizations, veterans organizations out there, for their fiscal donation in making this happen. And I hope we do get an opportunity to have a demonstration. You guys will be blown away, like the people there in Swanville were just amazed.
I think we'll make that happen, won't we, Sheriff?
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. And now we get to bring Brad back to the table and guests.
If it pleases the board, would it be okay if we adjusted what's on the schedule and have Carmen and Sarah come up first, please?
Absolutely.
Thank you. So this is going to be somewhat of an interactive presentation as part of 2 grants that were received, Tobacco-Free Communities and our SHIP work with Community Health, Wadena, Todd, and Morrison County. Part of the expectation is to create some awareness around tobacco use. And today we're going to focus a little bit on e-cigarettes. And as I said, it's going to be a little bit interactive. We have a lot of items that have been purchased by the CHB to share. We did parts of this presentation at a CHB meeting in Wadena last fall. I think it was last fall. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Carmen and Sarah to share information on e-cigarettes. So
Morning.
Good morning.
And I did just maybe to pose to Tabitha. She might want to take some pictures to post on Facebook during this presentation. So we'll see if she is able to do that or not. But
All right, good morning. So I'm Carmen. I work under the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership Grant as well as a sanitarian for the Public Health Department. A little bit about what we're going to be talking about. We're going to do a product demonstration so that you can actually feel and touch the different electronic cigarettes as well as look at the different e-juices, or otherwise known as e-liquids. We're going to look at some different data, some different trends, look at some Morrison County data that involves cigarette use and also e-cigarettes, and also some state and local legislation. So you might ask, what is an e-cig? So an e-cig is an electronic device. It uses aerosol, and it's heated, and then the user inhales the liquid. The liquid usually contains some sort of a nicotine and other flavorings. You can see that we have a wide variety of different flavorings in here that you can take a look at. Besides these, there's also a lot of different additives that are added to these. A lot of them are unknown. A lot of them are not listed on the product, so the user is not sure of what they're using within the e-cigarette. When using the e-cigarettes, people usually call it that they're vaping. The different names are vape pens, e-hookahs, tank systems, mods, Juuls, and I have a lot of those with us today. Some of the ingredients that could be in the e-cigarettes that are harmful could be diacetyl, which is a lubricant, and this can cause popcorn lung, which we know is a very serious and irreversible disease. It can contain other organic compounds and also heavy metals such as tin, nickel, and lead. So we're going to jump right into looking at some of the different products. Sarah will walk them up after I explain them to you. We're going to start by looking at some of the e-juices. So this is an e-juice, or do you think would it be easier if I came up there and you can pass them around?
Any way you want to do
Whatever
it.
you think would be best. That can work.
Well, I'll have you bring them up. Okay. So the first one we're looking at is called Candy. So you can see it's going to probably attract some youth. It's a kiwi flavored. It says on the bottom that it's 0 milligrams of nicotine, but they're not regulated, so that we know that these may contain up to 23 milligrams of nicotine, even though it says 0. Some different juices that we also have. These are called Candy Kings. So we have sour worms and also strawberry watermelon bubble gum. So
for those of us that are old enough to remember candy cigarettes, we're reverting back to that way of kind of encouraging us to try some tobacco products.
So these Candy Kings run about $30 per container of e-juice. These contain 6 milligrams of nicotine. They have this one package of e-juice contains about 800 cigarettes. So if you were to smoke in your e-cig this entire container, you would be smoking roughly 800 cigarettes. And you can buy it for $30.
How many, vape sessions, is that the word, would that supply? How much does it use?
Well, so I'll just show you, for example, these little tiny things, you can get 300 out of here. So out of there, I would say, I don't know. I mean, you can get quite a few, but it's just alarming that it's $30 only for roughly 800 cigarettes for the amount of nicotine that they have.
Yeah, no, that's crazy.
Yeah.
I just have no idea how that works.
Next, we're going to look at, if I can find it in here. This is a hemp extract CBD oil. So this is made from the plants and stalks of a hemp. This does not give you the high, though, that marijuana gives you. So this is not addictive, but people can put this in an e-cigarette and use it. So this is a CBD oil. This is a salt. So these are different than the actual e-juices that you're passing around. So the salts are a lot more potent. The salts can have, let me just see here. Sorry, there's so many different ones. Okay, so the salts have 50 milligrams of nicotine. So if you take one puff of this, you're getting 50 milligrams of nicotine, where the juice that you're passing around are only 6 milligrams. And this one is kiwi dragonberry, so another flavored.
So how many milligrams of nicotine would be in cigarettes?
Let me see. So one packet of cigarettes is about the same if 2 puffs. So roughly 1 puff of an e-juice is equal to about 1 cigarette. So you can just show that they're very potent and very powerful. And you have all the different flavorings. So this is a whipped cream flavoring. Looks just like a whipped cream bottle. This is Candy King, so it's Swedish fish. And this looks like a pop. So this is a strawberry kiwi. So there's a wide range of ingredients out there in different products. You just take it out and you put it right in. It even comes with stickers. So I'll let them pass those. So those are most of the juices. There's a few different varieties. A lot of them have different milligrams. Most of them are common though. 6 milligram. Next, we're going to look at some of the different electronic cigarettes. We're going to start with first looking at the products that are not refillable, not rechargeable. This is called a Blue. This came out 10 years ago. This is the first electronic cigarette that came on the market. So if you've seen commercials, you take off the bottom and the bottom parts lights up and it's blue. So this is This Blue costs about $15. And you can get about 200 puffs from it. So a lot of cigarette users will use this because it's the same shape, kind of the same design as a cigarette. So you'll get about 200 to 300 puffs for this, and then you throw it away.
Is it? Oh, it is loaded already. If you want to call it.
Yep, it's already
that.
loaded.
Okay.
Yep, it's.
And you said a puff is like 1 cigarette.
About 2 puffs is what you're going to get of the nicotine from an e-cig. So about 2 puffs of an electronic cigarette, you're going to get the same amount of nicotine that you would get from smoking a cigarette, roughly. This is a new design. This is called the Views, and I'll pass around the box. Or this is an Enjoy, sorry. This is you can buy right here in Little Falls. This is, if you look at the front, it says quick and strong satisfaction like a cigarette. So this is another disposable. You cannot refill it and you cannot recharge it.
So do you light these like with a match? Or?
Nope, you just suck on the end and
Battery powered.
it's all battery.
You get a little battery acid.
When we were doing our presentation at the Pizza Ranch in Wadena, actually some commissioners did take a puff or 2 of some of these various products. So,
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm sure we'd all
well,
try.
we'd have to look at the City of Little Falls cigarette policy because some e-cigarettes are not yet mandated, are not part of the tobacco for the Clean Indoor Air Act.
Yep.
So you can use e-cigarettes then, let's say, in a bar in Little Falls, inside the bar,
Yeah,
or a
we'll be
restaurant.
discussing all of those legislation pieces, but yes, it's not part of the Clean Indoor Air Act, which means you can do it in a bar, restaurant, motel, you know.
But I don't know what the policy is of the City of Little Falls, so I'd avoid using those right now.
Yes. So next we're going to look at what's called the Juul. The Juul is the most popular electronic cigarette on the market. This is what the Juul looks like, and I'll explain it more, but I want to first show you the pods. This is what a pod is. The pod goes on top of the Juul, and this is where your flavoring is, and this is where you get your nicotine from, is from the top. So it's called a pod. Each pod has 1 pack of cigarettes worth of nicotine, and it costs $4. So about half the price, roughly, of a cigarette. So these are different pods that come for the different products.
Can they go with that? Or you want to?
Yeah, and then this is a Juul. The Juul, 55% of electronic cigarette users currently use the Juul. That is what a lot of youth are using because it looks kind of like a flash drive, so they can plug it into their computer, use it in school. They're not going to have a huge cloud of smoke come from it, so a lot of schools are trying to see how they can work with getting the Juuls eliminated because so many students and youth are targeted toward that. The different products that they have for the flavorings, there's creme brulee up there, citrus, mint, and then also Virginia tobacco. So a lot of flavors targeted towards the youth.
Where is it?
This is a knockoff of the Juul. This is called the Blue, so it's the same factor. You put the pod up on top, and you charge it at the bottom with just a little USB. So you could use like a cell phone charger to charge this one. So that's why we can see there's such a high usage in youth because they're so easy to hide. You can just put it in your hand, and you can use it pretty easily. Next, we're going to look at some different mods. So these are a lot larger. These are still an electronic cigarette, but they're a lot larger than the Juul or the Blue that you're looking at currently. These are all programmable to your liking, so I don't know how to program them all, but there's people that know how to. You just open the top and you put your juice in it. They have different coils depending on your liking. So these are the different pods.
Well, I mean, don't they modify them too?
Yeah, and you can put other things in them. So those are $100 each.
This is not disposable.
Nope, that's rechargeable, refillable.
So your little round blue imitation cigarette.
Yep, that is disposable.
That was like $15, right?
Yep, and that is about 200 to 300 puffs depending on how hard you hit it.
And truly,
And so this little baby is worth how much?
That one is roughly $25. The Juul, though, that you see up there, that one was purchased, and the gas station owed 1 penny back. So it was $24.99, and they had a coupon at the register for $25, so they owed 1 penny back. So it was.
You earn a penny by buying
the Juul.
So truly, 1 puff of one of these electronic cigarettes is like smoking a regular run-of-the-mill cigarette, the entire thing?
About 2 puffs. So the little packets that you see coming around in the little baggie, one of those equals a pack of cigarettes.
And how much are those?
The little packets or the little pods are $4. Yep, those little things, $4, and they equal 1 pack of cigarettes for the nicotine.
Wow.
So. Yes. Here's just another type of an electronic cigarette. You just take it off and charge it at the top. And then there's a couple more products I'm going to share quickly, and then we'll get on with the rest. This is called the iCare, just another device, a lot smaller though, that you can hold in your hand. They now have an iShare, so it's meant for dual users. They have 2 different mouthpieces. This is another pod system. So this is the largest pod. You take it off and you put your pod in there. You can charge this one. This is another form of an e-cig. This is called a Rolo-Batch. You can just hold it in your hand and you put it on top. And this is another form of an electronic cigarette.
What does it smell like?
Some vanilla.
Vanilla.
So the salts that I passed around a little while ago, when you smoke a salt, you get a really hard, fast hit, and then it goes away really fast, unlike the other ones that have a slower reaction to your body. So.
I hope we don't get high.
Did you take a picture of that, Tabitha?
You want to redo it?
So, any questions on the different juices or pods or electronic devices?
I don't know. The money invested by these companies in marketing is really something.
Right.
Because even to the normal adult, you could have all these things laying around the house.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody would ever guess they would be e-cigarettes or any type of tobacco.
Oh, yeah, especially if you have a small can of whipped cream. I mean, who would think?
Just another note about all of these things. This is a container that's shared by Wadena, Todd, and Morrison for these type of presentations, and it was purchased with tobacco grant fund, so we could really make this real life presentation versus. I mean, it's great to see the pictures, but until you actually see and feel how easy it is to use, and then how easy it is for kids to hide what they're doing nowadays, I think it makes it much more interesting in terms of the presentation. So,
If I may, don't they
Open up, or is this you suck in here or something?
You explain this. Don't they have like vapor contest or something like that where they can hold so much vapor? You were explaining that, and then some of these you said it will cost like up to $500 to $800 each. Is that right?
Yeah, they're all like the bigger ones. These are a lot more costly, but they can all be programmed for different functions. So these are going to cost you a lot more than your little Juul. And a fun fact on the Juul is the new vape shop in town does not sell the Juul because they do not want to attract youth into the store. So. All right. So now that we saw all the different products, we're going to talk a little bit about some different data on Morrison County and also what comes out of the electronic cigarette. So a lot of people say that they're vaping or using a vape pen, but it's actually an aerosol, not a vapor that comes out of the electronic cigarette. We know that vapor is a steam or a fog when it's exhaled into the air, and the aerosol that is actually exhaled from the e-cigarettes is a mixture of different particles that is suspended into the air. So when we have our e-cigarette cloud, things that can be found in there could be nicotine, formaldehyde, carcinogens, and we get the same emission similar to a cigarette from a secondhand vape.
So some current state regulations around e-cigarettes are the liquids that were passed around intended for human consumption and use in e-cigarettes actually have to be sold in child-resistant packaging. The sale, distribution, purchase, possession, and use of e-cigarettes is prohibited for anyone under the age of 18. Use of e-cigarettes is prohibited in daycare and healthcare facilities and government-owned or operated buildings. And the use of e-cigarettes is prohibited in public and charter schools and any facility or vehicle owned by the school. So what we saw in 2017 from our Minnesota Youth Tobacco Survey results is that for the first time, youth tobacco use has increased for the first time in 17 years. So for the first time since 2000, overall youth tobacco use has increased in Minnesota. 26.4% of high school students are using some sort of tobacco or nicotine, up from 24.6% in 2014. Ironically enough, though, youth cigarette smoking has reached an all-time low. So less than 10% of high school students now smoke cigarettes, which is a 70% drop since 2000. So what that's really telling us is the usage of e-cigarettes. And 1 in 5 high schoolers are using e-cigarettes, which is a 50% increase since 2014. Again, from that Minnesota Youth Survey, we saw around 19% of high school students have used or tried e-cigarettes in the past 30 days. That's up almost 50% from 2014. We've seen about 40% of high school students have tried e-cigarettes, again, up 30% from 2014. We've seen that if they smoke an e-cigarette, they're twice as likely to use tobacco in the future. And we also see that this creates, because 34% of high school students and 15% of middle school students have put in other chemicals such as THC, hash oil, or any of those things, we've seen the increase in addiction, that could increase their addictive personality in the future. So we wanted to show you what the access to e-cigarettes was in Morrison County. And so 12 of our 64 retailers in Morrison County sell e-cigarettes. We have a smoke shop and a vape shop that sells e-cigarettes. I think the biggest concern with e-cigarettes is the online ordering that can happen. So what do kids do who are under 18? They grab their parents' driver's license or an over 18 driver's license. They put that date of birth into online. They can put their friend's address. Boom, they have an e-cigarette, and it's never questioned. So I think that's the biggest concern with this. And of course, just like from generation to generation, you buy from your friends. So,
Mr. Chair, can I get it? What is the definition of a vape shop or a smoke shop? Is that a business that just sells e-cigarettes? Would be a vape shop, or is that a place where they go and use that? Or
So a lot of the vape shops, I'm not too familiar with the vape shops, but they have electronic cigarettes, they have the different juices, they also sell other tobacco products, and then you can also try them out and kind of sample them. So that's what the vape shop here in town anyways. So you can go in there and see what you're buying and try it before you're actually going to purchase it.
and they don't sell anything else?
Other than tobacco products, no. It's just mainly tobacco products.
Thank you.
So I think the biggest concern with e-cigarettes has been we just don't have a lot of education and research about the fact that it is a serious health risk, and I think that's a misperception for a lot of people. A lot of people say that it's better than smoking. It's like a step down from smoking, which is absolutely not accurate. And so nearly all e-cigarettes, as you saw, contain nicotine, which can harm brain development for youth, for teens. And so some good news is as of August 10th, 2018, the FDA does require a warning label on e-cigarettes for the first time. And so what that warning label says is that this product contains nicotine, and nicotine is an addictive chemical. So that's great. We're finally there. And what we know is just no amount of nicotine is safe for youth. Like I just said, brain growth and development is huge during the adolescence period, and it can affect their learning, their memory, their attention. And again, as I discussed earlier, it creates addiction in the future. So I wanted to show a little bit about the cost to our county based on tobacco use, and this is around cigarettes, not e-cigarettes mostly. But so the Minnesota Department of Health, using our point of sale audits, helped us create this little graph for you. And what it showed is that 3,100 of our adults here in Morrison County smoke cigarettes. That nearly 1 in 7 of our deaths are tobacco related. That 23.3 million in excess medical costs, which in turn creates $753 extra of tax burden for each household here in Morrison County. So you can kind of see the effects of that.
The next couple graphs are going to show some different data by tobacco, income, and also healthcare. So this one shows the Morrison-Totowadena adult population that are current users of tobacco by income. So we can see that the lower 35,000 or less are high users of tobacco, and then it also increases again for $75,000 income or more. The next slide shows the St. Gabriel's Health Clinic population from 2016. So this is from any clinic population patient that came in 2016. 30% of those patients were tobacco users, and our prepaid medical assistance population, 48% of the prepaid medical assistance populations are using tobacco in 2016. This is a slide showing some different interview themes. We did the Statewide Health Improvement Partnership Grant along with Minnesota Department of Health, created a health equity data analysis survey in the fall of 2017 through this current spring. These are just some of the different themes that we saw of why people use tobacco. We saw a lot of generational use and societal pressure, and also stress, as well as environmental and work-related stress. We're going to talk a little bit about prevention efforts. Currently in the county, we are doing some compliance checks. They're required by state statute and county ordinance that all establishments that the county licenses are checked on. We did receive funding from the Congratulate and Educate program to help fund those projects. And so youth ages 15 to 17 go into an establishment and try to purchase tobacco. And if they are sold tobacco, they get fined.
And it sounds like they were there doing this last week.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yep. And then point of sale audits are being done in 2018. Those are done every 2 years, and they just identify different youth access points throughout an establishment. So they look at where are they placed, what are the different flavors, and then also working with healthcare systems to continue to identify how we can help those receive support and resources. We're also doing some parent education work. We're going to be really focusing in on how we can help youth and prevention efforts. We're doing prom and graduation programs. We just did a fall sports meeting to educate parents on electronic cigarettes, newspaper articles, Facebook posts, and also health fairs.
So just a little bit more about state and local legislation. This slide is a little bit outdated, I apologize, but the Tobacco 21, next one, please. Thank you. No problem. Since 2018, 11 Minnesota cities have passed the Tobacco 21 policy, which means that you have to be 21 years of age to purchase tobacco. And so those cities are Plymouth, Shoreview, Roseville, Falcon Heights, St. Louis Park, Edina, Minneapolis, Richfield, Bloomington, St. Peter, and North Mankato. So again, like,
you have to be 21 to purchase, but can you still use it if you're 18 or 19 in these cities?
I don't believe so. I'll have to look back at I believe, let's see, I have it right here. It says raising the tobacco age to 21 will prevent youth tobacco use and save lives. My understanding is you have to be 21 years of age to use tobacco as well.
But it does specifically say not to argue the point or belabor it. Bill introduced on March 8th, 2018 to raise the state tobacco sale age to 21.
Yeah.
I don't know either. Right.
Yeah, I'll have to do, let's see if there's anything. Yeah, it does say sale age, so I would have to clarify whether or not that's use or not.
It is a good point. Yes, you can't go here and buy at 21, but you can still walk around town if you go to a local community close to you and still use. So
yeah, but you're right. It does clarify sale age. So, And 6 states have passed that too: Hawaii, California, New Jersey, Maine, Oregon, and Massachusetts. Minnesota introduced a bill in March of 18 to raise the state tobacco sale age to 21. At this time, it's just that wasn't passed, and it's just based on each individual city and state. So, like Brad had discussed earlier, the Minnesota Clean Indoor Air Act, which prohibits smoking in certain facilities such as bars, restaurants, hotels, motels, educational facilities. E-cigarette use is not a part of the Clean Indoor Air Act. So several counties have been trying to make that a part of their Clean Indoor Air Act, their ordinances. So 25 counties and 31 cities have added e-cigarettes into their Clean Indoor Air policies. Any further questions or comments or?
So as I said, one of the goals of both the tobacco-free communities and the SHIP is to educate policymakers. And so we'll continue to do some of these things to educate our county commissioners and our stakeholders. As Commissioner Lemire saw at our Public Health Advisory meeting, we did a similar but shorter presentation to that group. We'll continue to talk about it at our CHB. But this is one of those expectations of the grants, so we want to make sure and keep our policymakers informed. And so it's very interesting to see kind of what's available and accessible and interesting products they make to induce kids into thinking this is okay.
Tremendously informative, very educational. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you for the education. You know, the visual makes a big difference when you go into a place and think of all these things that are available. Like you says, we could see them sitting around our house and not think nothing of them. Mm-hmm. So thank you very
All
much.
of the products were purchased between the 3 counties, so it just shows that every one of these is available right at our fingertips. So.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So, Brad, I think you want to start
We'll
again.
go back up if we can. So the next item on the public health report is an approval of a maintenance and support agreement between Morrison County and Minnesota County's Computer Support. This is the company that manages a number of technology products across the organization. Specifically in public health, we pay for the PHDoc system, which is our client services and billing format. So it is time to do our 2018 agreement. This particular agreement will not exceed $27,776 based on the size of our county and usage. And so I'm looking for approval and a signature from the county board and the administrator to attest to the agreement.
I'd look for a motion.
I make a motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Further discussion.
And Mr. Chair, we discussed this at the planning session too, so again, this is not like it's being dropped on us today.
Anything further? It's not a cheap endeavor, obviously, but it's obviously something that is needed because why?
This is what public health uses to document the activities that we do with all of our customers, clients, services we provide, as well as billing for some of the services. And the other thing I'd say is that this is a county-owned product by a number of counties. So we work in collaboration with 33 counties, I think, on this particular product. So
what you're saying is PHDoc, if you will, there's 33 other counties that also utilize the same thing. We're not the only ones.
Correct. And we all have a different fee based on our population, our use, number of individuals within PHDoc.
And nobody wants to go back to a pencil and a piece of paper. Okay.
No, sir.
Anything further, gentlemen? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Brad, thank you very much.
And I'm not done yet. I have a few other things to seek approval from the board. So there are 3 different board action items. The first one is a couple of one-day on-sale liquor license requests and a 2 a.m. optional liquor license request. All these have been approved by the sheriff. The one-day are for a Habitat for Humanity fundraiser at the Falls Ballroom in September and a Morrison County Area Foundation event to be held at the hangar in Camp Ripley. And the 2 a.m. is the Grub and Pub.
I'd look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Just one question on the hangar. Don't they have a bar out there?
Yep, they do, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
I have a question on the 2 a.m. at the Grub and Pub. Obviously, the sheriff has okayed this.
Yes.
As far as we know, it's obviously been pain-free for some time now.
No news is good news.
Very good.
Mary at Public Health does check with the sheriff on that.
Okay.
We have one other 2 a.m. outside of city limits.
Okay.
So,
Got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
the next request is for board approval on an additional service license and an increase in campgrounds at the Piers Municipal Campground and Clubhouse in Piers. They are looking to add 24 additional sites at their city campground. So they want some overflow for some unique, when they have things going on that they just have too many people around. So
Okay.
more primitive these sites, I think, are going to be than their current campground. So
Look for a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
And then the last one is a request for a new owner license for Red's Irish Pub in Swanville. There's a new owner, and they need to change the name on the tobacco license.
Okay. Look for a motion.
I'll move that.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes.
Now I'm done.
And I believe you are.
Something
Thank
else.
you. We take a 5-minute break. We can reconvene, and I believe Becky is here with extension. Good morning, Becky.
Morning, Becky.
Good morning. Just a couple of things that I wanted to mention. We did wrap up what I feel was a very successful county fair. I hope all of you got a chance to go out and take a peek at what was out there. 4-H stuff was bountiful and kids did well. We're going to send 24 kids to our livestock encampment. Actually, they leave real early in the morning tomorrow morning. 13 kids will be doing our general encampment. And we're also sending down 2 club banners. The rest of our fall activities, there are 2 kids going to the State Shooting Sports Wildlife Invitational, 8 to the State Horse Show. Morrison County was actually only awarded 5 trips, but we were extraordinarily gifted to have received 3 leadership trips, and those are based solely on a youth's leadership activities within the horse and also their general 4-H career, and they apply through a written process and an interview process, and the older kids also give a speech. And so we had 1 senior and 2 intermediate applicants that were selected, and it's only out of, I think, 10, so it's pretty impressive. So there'll be 8 going down to the State Horse Show. They actually get to take their horse then through this leadership trip. 27 will be attending our Northeast Livestock Show, and 3 this year will be attending our State Dog Show. And I did want to mention I got to meet Nathan Druitz, who is our new crops educator. He was into the office yesterday, and I believe Emily will be bringing him next month to meet all of you.
Excellent. Any questions?
I will have a full county fair report for next month, but we've been struggling to get state fair stuff ready to go. So
It was a very entertaining county fair, and I thank you for everything that 4-H did for that. It was very entertaining. Anything else, gentlemen? Thank you very, very
Thanks,
kindly,
Becky.
Becky. See you next time.
have a good day.
Miss Amy with Land Services.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning, Amy.
Okay, in your board packet, you got a really wonky resolution, and I apologize for that. So I'm sure you all read it, every word, and realized that
it was not what I should have been bringing forward. So I apologize for that. So I have the correct one here. So this is this request is to consider the final plat application for Dale Doucette / Common Interest Community Number 13 / Bear Cabins Association. This is an existing common interest community, and they're looking at providing some additional parcels for garage space. This was considered by the Planning Commission and was recommended for approval. Contrary to the resolution, there were no conditions recommended, but I'm recommending a condition that the recorded final plat and declarations shall include all corrections as directed by the Stearns County Surveyor. We are utilizing the Stearns County Surveyor for our review at this moment, and he did submit some red lines and some changes to the declarations that need to be done. Otherwise, it was substantially in compliance with our platting rules.
Look for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with the condition that Amy stated.
I'll second that. Got a motion and a second. Discussion. There was nice discussion at the Planning Commission in regards to this, so I would just like to comment about that. Anything further? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? That motion passes.
All right, that's all I have.
Wow. Greg did. Yes. Yes.
Thanks, Amy.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
How could you have so little?
Yeah. Our next item is the auditor's report. Hello there, Deb. How are you? It looks like we're talking about the cash report today.
Mine's pretty brief. Yeah, Steve included the cash report for your information.
Yep.
He does this every month.
Yep.
And then I have an exempt permit for your approval from the Minnesota Deer Hunters Association to hold a raffle September 21st at the Falls Ballroom. That goes along with a liquor permit you approved earlier.
I would look for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chair, if I may, are we making a motion on the cash report and the
Cash
permit?
report is information.
And oh, I thought it said motion.
No, cash report is information.
Motion.
And the item that we're talking about here is the deer hunters now. So I believe we have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes.
And we also have warrants.
So what I would look for is a motion to pay all of the bills.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. This is a roll call vote. Commissioners, Winter?
Aye.
Lemire?
Aye.
Wilson?
Aye.
Lane? Aye. And myself as an aye vote. That motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you very kindly, Deb. Our next item is from Public Works. Oh, my word. We don't have Steve today. We have Chuck.
No, sir, it's the C team this morning.
No. I think it's maybe we'll put a little A. Yeah, we're the A team. You're back.
Good morning, Commissioners, staff.
Good morning, Chuck. Today we're going to talk about a licensing hauler, I believe.
Yes, sir. It is just a request for a motion to approve. It's a mid-year application for a solid waste hauler license form from Marvin Treader Incorporated. They're working on a couple of projects. They did a temporary, and now they felt the need to go through with the rest of a actual license.
I'd look for a motion.
So move.
Second.
Yeah, now discussion. Does this happen very often, Chuck?
On occasion, there's been a number of them that have come midstream. Tom Kramer and a couple others when they saw the need and they do it. Sometimes it's driven purely by the projects they might have or something, but otherwise it's a yearly calendar, and they also meet all the other requirements of certificate insurance and everything as well. So
Very good. Got a motion and a second. Further discussion? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion passes. Chuck, thank you very kindly.
Excellent.
Appreciate your time.
I have one thing for you to sign. I'll give that to Tabitha on my way out.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chuck.
Thank you.
You're a lot quicker than Steve.
You don't talk nearly as much.
He gets right to the point.
I wouldn't have that.
Report. And now we have the administrator's report. Gruber?
Mike Philippi is on his way to talk about a construction update after we're done. But first, I wanted to talk about an IT plan. We have some staffing changes in IT. Joe Byrne is no longer with the county, and so we need to move forward with that. And right now, I want to ask for some time to take a look at what we're doing with IT. For the short term, and I don't know if all of you know Amy Middendorf, and she's welcome to come up if she would like, but at this time my proposal is to put in place kind of an interim staff plan so we can step back and take a look at what our needs are and do what we typically have viewed in the past as appropriate and determine what it is we should what it is we should do, what it is we could do, what are some options in terms of delivering service. And so with that, if you are willing, I'd like to work with Amy as the interim IT director at this point in time. Amy's been with Morrison County for, 10?
I've been with Morrison for 15 years.
15 years.
IT for 10.
For 10, okay, it's been 10. And she's really learned a lot, and her role has morphed from the IT help desk up into doing our network management with Morrison County. And what I would like to do with Amy and with the leadership of Morrison County is, with her in that role interim, I would like to take a look at what is it we need for permanent staff levels, what is it we need or could utilize contracts for IT services, what is it that we are doing well and want to make sure we continue, or other areas that we could improve upon. And so with that, taking a little time to do that and not rushing into making decisions for staffing replacements right away. Take a step back, because there are different things and different options out there, and IT is an ever-changing business, as you are well aware. It changes quickly, and it changes often, and it changes substantially. And so we want to take a look and see if there are some other ways of doing business that might make sense, or if how we're doing it is the best. And so with that, the steps that I'd ask is to appoint Amy as the interim director. It's nice to be able to have somebody in charge of that. There are things that I know, and there are things that I don't know a lot about, and IT is one of them. I'm not very technically savvy, and so I need somebody with a little bit more help in that regard. And then, like I said, take a look at how we are organized, how we need to meet needs short term, and then what are some different long-term solutions that we'd want to present to you as a board.
And forgive me, do we need a motion for this, or is this something that you, as the administrator, take on? I'm looking for a little
I would
direction.
like your approval on how to approach this. I'm looking at probably a 2 to 3 month time period, and kind of coincide with the 2019 budget cycle. There was an additional staff person that was initially proposed for the original first blush at the budget for 2019. So Amy and I talked about that and wanted some time to make sure that's something that we need, to make sure that's something that we want to continue with when we work with the leadership group, and looking at the needs.
I would look for a motion to approve the conversation that Ms. Gruber just had.
And essentially, it's really recognizing
IT
Amy as that role
transaction plan.
and compensating
Absolutely.
accordingly and following that path.
I'd look for a motion.
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Discussion?
Yes. In your listed steps there. Thank you. In your listed steps there, working to gather information, is that will that be led by Ms. Middendorf in looking at this needs of this department going forward? Will that be her responsibility
I think
to bring that information to you? Just
Her
so
and
I
I
understand
together. Yep.
what process
Yep.
I'm after the process
Yep.
here.
Amy and I have talked already about some different things that we want to take a look at. One of them being what she does now for the county with the network management. IT, we're kind of talking about how IT is one of those functions that we at least have more options when it comes to being able to purchase the services. Then it's a little different than some of the other, like a social worker, or, it's kind of a common business out there maybe that sells service, and you don't need to necessarily always understand our organization to be able to complete and deliver that service. And so with all of those options, I think it's reasonable to say, okay, is there an immediate need that we need to take a look at that we can't fulfill with the existing staff? Because, her taking on this role obviously then vacates what she has right now. And it may be that we come to you and recommend that we fill that with an in-house staff person. But instead of doing that right away, we'd like to just step back just a little bit to make sure that the vision that is set in place is what really needs to happen, and that's the best solution for Morrison County. It may look exactly like we have it now. I don't know that for sure, but I really would like that time to work with Amy to see what her thoughts are, to see if we can kind of take her interim role, and if it makes sense, and if she's interested, and if you're comfortable putting that more to a permanent plan.
So the other part of this in my mind is that will she have the ability to look outside of how things are done operationally and within our county to look at maybe other counties to gather further information to help us shape something going forward? Do we have the fiscal means to do that, and do we have the time needs to do that?
So in response to that, since I've been in IT for 10 years, the last 5-6 years, I've been part of a group called ISSG that's through MCCC. ISSG is all the IT directors in Minnesota, so I have a relationship with many IT directors, and they respond to me, they call me, we're friends basically, and they're all willing to help me, help understand, tell me what their plans have been, their transitions. Everybody's kind of going through the same transitions that we're going to be doing, not because of a loss of an employee, but just because of how technology and IT needs have been changing. So Deb and I have kind of been discussing that we need to get together and then talk with all the other departments to see what kind of IT needs do you really need the county to serve versus contracting out with another person, because maybe it's a project and they just need a contracted person, not an IT from Morrison County there. So just discussing that and engaging where everybody's thoughts are at, and hopefully provide the best service to Morrison County at the best cost.
For example, there's a couple specific projects like in the sheriff's office right now in which, due to staffing availability or staffing knowledge, because IT is so ever-changing, that it made more sense, given all the circumstances, to have a contract with a professional services contract with somebody who can provide that service, complete that project, and then be done. And then we can move forward with that ongoing service if need be through our IT, or you buy hours with a vendor that just has that specific knowledge, because to be able to hire and retain somebody with all of that expertise doesn't always work. And so sometimes it just makes sense to say, you know what, we only need it this much time, and instead of hiring somebody or trying to train them for that, let's just purchase those hours. But it's weighing that, it's taking a look at what the needs are. That's what we'd like to do a little bit, and take some time to step back and say, okay, what do we want to make sure we do in-house? And I think Amy and I talked about, we share a lot of the same vision in terms of it's important to have somebody who can call in, staff can call in, see face-to-face, and have a relationship with when they have immediate issues with their hardware that they have, or certain help desk types of things on an ongoing basis. But as far as this is where she's going to laugh. But as far as like back end service manager and network stuff, the fact that it might not be in-house isn't as big of a deal, and we can really get a better bang for the buck for the services that we need in some instances. So I think it's evolved, and it continues to evolve in such a way that we have some options, and I think it's making smart decisions with those options and bringing those to you to present some options instead of just continuing as is without looking at it.
Thank you, because both of you fully answered the questions that I had, and so I appreciate that. Thank you.
Further discussion?
How about our remodeling project? Does it affect